Hello. I've changed my title a bit from Bones to Bach with a laugh because I'm going to talk about three things: medicine, music, and comedy. And since the medical bit is about bone infections, I've chosen this reproduction of St. Cosmas and Damian, the patron saints of the medical profession, and they are famous for the miracle of black leg, the first description of limb transplant in medicine. But since they were called anargiroi, they were not accepting payment for their services. They are not regarded as patron saints by the orthopedic surgeons. So when I got the invitation to talk about, I immediately knew that I will talk about osteomyelitis, osteoarticular infections, and basically around the turn of the century, I finished my residency in pediatrics, came to work to the Department of Infectious Diseases, a hospital for both kids and adults with infections, and we treated a lot of kids with bone infections, and we treated them for long periods with IV antibiotics. Then when we switched to oral, we did serum bactericidal assay, and basically when I found this paper, I was delighted that it can be done in a simple way by Finns. We always try to be like the Finns, you know, they have really prudent use of antimicrobials. They have high vaccination coverage rates. They did studies with HIB, which I did for Master of Science thesis. And I had a patient then with tibial osteomyelitis, was allergic to beta-lactams. I gave him clindamycin, blood culture came back positive with Staph aureus, and he improved, and I said at the round, I will discharge him on day 5, and Milan Čižman, who was my boss at that time, said, oh, we treat for longer periods, how you dare? Look, it's the paper from the Finns. They do it, and they are successful, and I will present the study. It's like 50 cases. They did bone sampling with puncture or drilling, beyond neonatal period, short symptom duration, either gave first-generation cephalosporin or clindamycin, and after 3 to 4 days, they switched to oral in the same dose, no serum bactericidal activity, and actually they stopped treatment if two consequential measurements of CRP were below 20, and the child was okay, and they followed the kids for almost a year. And they had, like all our cohorts have, male predominance, talking about gender equality. Most of them were osteomyelitis cases, and all isolates were sensitive to first-generation cephalosporin and clindamycin, like in our country. And all symptoms and signs have resolved, and there were no long-term sequelae, no growth disturbances, and no relapses. And basically, they've proven that this treatment can be simplified and the patients can be safely discharged home on oral antibiotics. And this has also impacted my practice. We have managed at our hospital to shorten IV antimicrobial treatment and now treat for, let's say, 5 to maybe 7 days. Our efforts were, however, occasionally been complicated by the occurrence of PVL producing Staph aureus, which can be quite nasty. And since all our PVL-producing isolates are sensitive to methicillin, then you have a dilemma what to give a patient who has lung infection at the same time as the osteomyelitis. And since we also introduced HIB vaccine, we got rid of HIB, and we switched our empirical treatment of septic arthritis from cefuroxime to flucloxacillin, and subsequently we found that not all cases went well, and then we found out that they were due to Kingella kingae, and with use of PCR, now at our center, the majority of bone joint infections in under 5-year-olds are due to Kingella kingae. And we invited Heike 10 years ago to Ljubljana to have a pro et contra debate, and he was advocating simplification. I had to be against, but in the end, we agreed that it can be simplified, and we went to a concert in Ljubljana Concert Hall. And then we met 4 years later in Haikeland, in Helsinki, at the European Bone and Joint Infection Society, where we all presented our results. And again, we went to a concert. because we are both musicians, but Heikki is much better musician than me, because, you know, on this side, you can see the same concert hall in Helsinki, and this is Heikki conducting a large choir. You can find Heikki on PubMed, but you can find him also on Apple Music, Spotify, and all online providers of music, because he has like 20 LPs and CDs. So I will never reach his achievements. I try modestly to study one prelude and fugue from Bach well-tempered clavier a year, but the next time, the year around, I learn another one, I forget the other one. So then I switched, I took back on the recorder. I play at church every Sunday, maybe to get the air conditioning in the purgatory. And we have introduced with the national radio, because music is a medicine, as Plato and Hippocrates have already said. We try to provide for patients in our hospital also high quality content, music included. And probably our band, you've heard us play at the opening of the ESPID 5 years ago. And you probably remember the lyrics, because humor is an essential part of my life. I try to implement humor in daily communication with parents, with kids, and also with my colleagues at the Children's Hospital, because it's much easier to persuade a colleague to help you with some, let's say, investigation, diagnostic procedure, or therapeutic procedure. But I did it quite professionally, because in the 90s with this guy, we created a sitcom, and in the first decade of this century, we also created another sitcom which ran for 3.5 years. And as I have said, humor is an essential part of my life. And this is the last paper that I will show you, because it also is a proof that medicine is also associated with humor. This is a paper published almost 40 years ago in Pediatric Infectious Disease called the teething virus, and I strongly recommend that you find it and you read it, because it's hilariously funny and written. And I asked George McCracken in '98, why did you publish it? And he said, well, it was nicely written. We had some mixed responses from the audience, but humor is best. So I will conclude with Kiitos Heikki. Thank you, Heikki. Music is a medicine, and humor also helps. Thank you.